would love to welcome everybody to Tuesday Night Talks. We've been here every Tuesday. This is our 4th week. So really, really excited. It's been great so far, and really looking forward to tonight's speakers that we have. My name is Matt Elkin. I'm here with Scott Martin. We're here from West Coast Elite Basketball and Attitude of Gratitude Consulting. But more importantly, all of you guys are on here to hear from some of these great coaches. And so we're really honored and really excited to welcome in our first coach in the night, Coach Bain from Brandeis. Coach, welcome.
Thank you guys, Matt and Scott. Great being on here. I really appreciate you guys having me, and hopefully everybody's safe out there. I want to welcome everybody that's joined the cast, and hopefully I can give them as much information on Brandeis as possible.
Yeah, definitely. No, I've Coach Bain and I have known each other for a while. I was actually thinking about it today. I think we first connected at the airport. We were both going to either Final Four or a recruiting weekend. Something was going on, but just saw me, connected, and offered to give me a ride. So ever since then, we've been tight. And Coach has been around the block and has had some incredible experiences leading up to being the head coach at Brandeis. So with that being said, Coach, tell us a little bit about your background and kind of like what led you up to, getting your position and your opportunity at Brandeis.
Obviously the great thing was I'm from New England. I'm a New Englander. I went to school. I'm from Medford, Massachusetts, and I played at Northeastern. So just the opportunity to come back home and, kind of start my first coaching career was very intriguing. And obviously, being the academic schools that I've been at, I was at Columbia, I was at Dartmouth for a total of 7 years, and just having that academic background and coaching, those type of kids, and then having the opportunity to work at an institution like Brandeis, really opened up my eyes as to this was the job I wanted as my first, head coaching job.
Yeah, for sure. No, it's spent some significant amount of time at, like you mentioned, Columbia, Dartmouth, two incredible institutions in the Ivy League. And, I think a lot of students that are on the call, are kind of up in that air between, am I an Ivy League type player? Am I somebody that could play in the UAA or, so tell us a little bit kind of in terms of the academic and your experience having worked at the Ivy League and now at Brandeis. Talk a little bit about your school, what do you love about it? And what are some things that these kids would really be interested in coming to Brandeis?
Mm-hmm. I mean, one of the best things about Brandeis, like you just said, is the opportunity to compete in the UAA. As far as a league at this level, I really believe the UAA is the best basketball as well as academic league in the country. It's a great combination of both, and I think the opportunity to travel and play in different cities, Atlanta, New York, Chicago. So you kind of have a chance to really enjoy the whole process. Kind of feel like it's really a Division I experience. And also, with Brandeis, our location, being 10, 15 minutes outside of Boston, it's just the best. To me, it's the best of both worlds. The one thing that on my interview that I really loved about this place was the people here and, the administration, the people in the athletic department, as well as the student body. They really make you feel like you belong, and it's enjoyable every day to go in the office. I mean, our games this year were exciting because we had a lot of supports from our student athletes, as well as the student body. It's just, to me, it just feels like home for me personally. But I know a lot of the students that go here really enjoy the environment and the camaraderie of the student body as well as the athletes. So for me, it's just been very enjoyable these last couple of years as far as a coach.
Yeah, and I can only imagine what it's been like to be, get to be back kind of almost in your backyard, getting to coach there. Like you mentioned, I grew up in Boston, and Brandeis is right there. I mean, as soon as you're outside of the city limits, you're right in Waltham, and so the location is amazing. And the academics as well are incredible at Brandeis. So when you put all those things together, and then you add in a great basketball program, I mean, it's a home run. So tell us a little bit about just since you've taken over at Brandeis, talk a little bit about the basketball program and what you're hoping to build up, throughout the time that you're there.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the first thing that I wanted to establish when I got here was, I wanted to get to know the student athletes. I didn't, because of the timing of when I got the job, it was really, really late. So, like most coaches get jobs in the spring, they get a chance to build the relationships with their kids. So I got the job late in October. And, the first thing I wanted to do was just kind of build that relationship with these kids and my staff. And I wanted to change the culture. And, I wanted to make basketball important to them. I wanted them to enjoy basketball. And, I've been lucky to really have really good kids on my team. And, we have a lot of unselfish kids, a lot of kids that really want to win, and a lot of kids that are really self-motivated. I think that's one of the biggest things at this level is, because of the academic stuff that you have, and it's a rigorous, core, you have to be really dedicated to put the work in the classroom, and then you got to come and put the work in on a basketball court. So, I was really surprised just how my guys responded, when I told them, hey, I wanted to not just win, I wanted to build a culture and a foundation, not for today, but for as long as I'm here. So I think I've been fortunate enough to have the kids that bought in from day one to building that structure of being in the gym all the time, of, watching film, constantly trying to prove themselves as players, as students of the game. So I think that's been one of the things that I've established, and myself and my staff has established here, is just, our guys really value basketball. It's important to them. And we've had some success because of the kids that I've had.
No question. That's awesome. And we're hoping that it continues to move forward in a really positive direction for you. And so I want to kick it over to Scotty, and he's going to ask you a couple more questions just about recruiting and just student life and everything at Brandeis. Scotty?
Coach, really appreciate you coming on tonight. I saw that you've had stops at Columbia, Dartmouth, and being in a really competitive conference in the UAA. What differentiates a student athlete from being in the UAA to being an Ivy League athlete? Is there a difference from your experience?
Honestly, I obviously it's just to me, it's just the levels in terms of Division I, Division III. But I think as far as the dedication that, you have to have, whether you're in the UAA and the Ivy League, to be able to do the academics side and as well as the basketball side at kind of the same level, I think it's very equal. You look at our league, we play Friday and Sundays. In the Ivy, you play Friday, Saturday. So, that not much has changed as far as that goes. I just really respect a lot of these kids because of the time that they put in to be student athletes, because they are really student athletes, because, they can't just miss a class and not worry about it. Every class is important. Just like every game is important. So I think they're both very similar because, a lot of these kids are very, very self-motivated. I think that makes, as a coach in this league and as a coach in the Ivy, it just makes your job easier, because you can really focus a little bit more on the basketball side, because your guys are motivated. The academics, they want to get good grades, they want to graduate, they want to go on and get great jobs. You try to guide them in the right direction and try to get them better on the basketball court. So I think it's very even, to be honest with you. Like I said, I think it's just a matter of Division I and Division III. That's the only difference to me.
What does your schedule look like? Because I know Division III has some restrictions on time, so you have to be more self-motivated. What does your program schedule look like throughout the year?
The one thing is, obviously, once the season in the fall, we can't do anything with the guys on the court as far as individual workouts. So, when they start school in August, late August till October 15th, we can't touch them. But we do have a full-time strength coach that we have team workouts. Our guys play pickup. Our guys will do individual workouts themselves every morning. So like I said, that's where the self-motivation part comes in, because I think our kids really take the initiative of trying to get better. So they establish that in the fall. And then once we get them in practice, October 15th, it's pretty much like a Division I level. We get one day off. We play, 2 to 3 games, sometimes a week in a lawn league. And then once you start league, your schedule is pretty much made up for you. You play Friday, Sunday. We always take Mondays off. We practice Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and we play Friday. So it kind of it's a great balance. Our kids kind of know once we get into league play, their schedules are pretty much the same academically and basketball-wise. So it gives them time to prioritize, academics and basketball, when they're going to work out, when they're going to get some extra work in. So I think that schedule of the way our league is really helps our guys, being, valuing their time and making sure they're organized and, getting everything done. I think that really helps them.
No, 100%. Like Brandeis is a top 40 national university that includes Ivy Leagues and all the big schools. When you're on the recruiting trail, what kind of academic profile do you look for? And does the athletics support admission to the university at all? Like how does that whole process work?
Yeah, it's very similar to the Ivy League. our school, 1250 to 1500 SAT requirement, 29 to 33 ACT, 3.8 to 4.0 GPA. So it's pretty much standard. And that's the great thing about, I think recruiting at these, whether I'm in the Ivy or in the UAA, is you kind of know the kids you have to target. That makes it easier on myself and my staff because, we know the guys that have the academics, the guys that want to play at this level. It's just a matter of convincing them now to come to a school like Brandeis. And like you mentioned, obviously we're a top 40 school. We have so many things to offer. We have so many different majors. And the business side is very, very favorable here. A lot of students come here to study business. So, it just offers so many different opportunities in the classroom and obviously athletic-wise that, I think that's why Brandeis is really a great school. And, the people here really care about you. It's not a huge school where you get lost. We got about 3,700 undergrad, about 2,600 graduate students. So you can't get lost in the shuffle. I think 60% of our classes are 20 or less students. So when you go to class, you're not sitting in a classroom of 300 students. You're establishing a relationship with your professors. You're establishing a relationship with your classmates. It just makes it easier, especially when you come in as a freshman, to be able to maneuver and get off to a good start academically. Just building those relationships with your professors, with your classmates. I think all those things are very valuable in terms of the way Brandeis operates.
Yeah, I mean, I saw online that it's a 10-to-1 staff to student ratio. I mean, that's incredible. Is there anything else that the athletic program or your basketball program does to support these student athletes academically? When they're not in the gym?
I mean, for me personally, we have study hall twice a week once the season starts. We have tutors available for every one of our student athletes. And our guys really obviously take advantage of that because we do travel quite a bit, obviously, once the league starts. So, we have all the resources to be successful. That's one of the things prior to me taking a job that, we had talked about was, we have the resources there to be successful at a high level. The goal of myself, the goal of everybody in the athletic department is to make sure, every student athlete graduates and goes on and does real well once they're done. And I think that's one of the things that obviously I learned in the Ivy League was just, these guys, man, when they were graduating, the jobs they were getting, they were making more money than I was. But that's kind of what, we tell our guys, we want to make sure you graduate, but you go on to do big things. And we talk about family and that's what we are. So we want to have those lasting relationships as well with our guys once they're done here.
Is the typical major for the basketball program business, or is there any trends? What are the big majors at Brandeis that attract?
Yep. We have a lot of guys that are in the sciences. Economics is a big thing. So our guys are, they kind of go in different, they try and tackle different avenues in terms of trying to settle into what they want to do, really. But you're right. A lot of our guys do lean towards the business side of things. The one thing that we do here, the one thing that when I got the job, I wanted to help our guys with was help them get internships, in the summertime or in the springtime. That's something that we really do a good job of. One of my assistants, LJ Harrington, who's our volunteer assistant, works in the business world. So he does a great job of putting together a group of guys that, that will come in and talk to our guys about, going out on an interview, how to, what kind of questions to ask, how to prepare for an interview. So, we try to tackle all different sides of the program, but, we really focus on the academic side and making sure that these guys, once they graduate from Brandeis, they're ready for the real world.
I'm sure the alumni network is phenomenal too.
Yeah.
How many players do you tend to carry? Do you have multiple levels? I know some schools have a JV and like a developmental squad and a main team. How does it work with your program?
You know what? My first first year we had 10 guys. Last year we had 13. This coming year we're gonna have 15. So typically the UAA, most schools will typically carry 14 guys. This year we'll have 15. So it's a good number. It's not too big. It's not too small. We don't have a JV team. We have 15 guys that come to practice every single day, and we push them. I coach 1 to 15 the same, and we try to get the best out of them. I think that's been the rewarding thing that I've seen with our guys is the competition level. Even when we had 10 guys, I was playing, every guy was playing. So that's been a huge, asset for us is, not having big numbers, just having that, 14, 15 guys minimum.
What is your play style and what kind of athletes do you look for? You look for big, long, athletic? Do you push the tempo to carry, only 15 or 12 guys?
Mm-hmm. Well, you know what? It's funny you bring that up. I told my assistants the other day now, like I said, my first year, we didn't have those guys to kind of play that style because I wanted to get up and down, but we just didn't have enough bodies. We didn't have enough guys that were capable of doing that. But this past year and the upcoming year, we're going to have 15 guys that can, to me, I feel can compete night in, night out. So we're really going to try to get up. We're really going to try to press a little bit more and try to push tempo, try to get easy baskets in transition. But everything starts with our defense. My first 2 years here, we've been really, really good on defense. So we're going to continue that trend, but we're going to look to play a little bit up and down in this coming year because we're going to have more bodies. We're going to be more athletic, and we're going to be deeper. So I'm excited about that, this coming season.
It's a fun style to play. What can players do in this environment to get on your radar for specifically 2021s? And what can younger kids at the 2022 and 2023 age group to get on your radar early?
I think the biggest thing for me right now is I've been watching a lot of video. I've watched more videos that student athletes have sent me than I've ever watched in my life because obviously I've been home, so I've had a chance to really focus on that. I think that's the number one thing, to try to get your videos out there, not just a highlight film. I'm a big game. I want to watch a whole game. I want to see how you start, how you finish. I want to see how you react when you go through your low moments and when you go through your high moments. So I said, send out a game film, send out some highlights. Obviously, send out your transcript information to us, and we follow up on every single kid that we get information on. If you look at our roster, we got guys from all different parts of the country, New York, California, New Jersey, Chicago. So we recruit pretty much the whole country. So, getting that information to us early, especially now, is definitely helpful in terms of, you establishing where your recruiting is going to go.
How important is the high school program, and how important is the AAU program you play for? How much weight does that stuff hold in the recruiting process?
It's funny. It's funny. Like, to me, when I was at the Division I level, the guys that I always felt that I could recruit and they would have a chance to be better at the next level were guys that always played on smaller AAU teams. I don't know what it was, but I think if you can play, you can play. I really don't think that, obviously, playing for a Nike team or Puma, I don't think all that stuff matters. My thing is, if you can play, whether it's you're a scholarship player, you're a Division III high academic player, if you can play, we'll find you. And, obviously that's one of the things you guys at West Coast Elite have done a tremendous job of. Since I was at Dartmouth, I've known Ryan, I've dealt with your program. You guys just do a tremendous job of just getting those kids in front of us and giving us an opportunity to evaluate those kids. And it just makes our job easier if kids do play for a program like that. But at the same time, if you're a good player, we'll find you.
Do you have any camp opportunities for prospective athletes that are, I'm sure tentative still, but that you're planning on having this year?
You know what? We did, but unfortunately, we had a league camp set up for August, 2 elite camp weekends. But unfortunately, they've canceled everything at Brandeis for the summer, any camps at the summer. So as of right now, unless Brandeis changes their plans and opens up, we don't have any other avenues. But, we got a ton of tape and video and transcripts on guys. And, we're hoping at some point late in August, hopefully things open back up. We can get back out on the road and see some of these guys. But for now, I think the film as a coach, it's really helped us evaluate guys. I've watched certain guys 2, 3, 4 times. It's given me a better feel for certain guys that I didn't have a feel for. So I think, right now the video stuff is really, really helpful.
When they're sending film, is there you like to see a highlight, a high school game, an AAU game? Like what kind of combination of that stuff?
You know what? I would say all three, man. I would say, send me a highlight where I can watch you at your best. Send me your high school where, I can obviously watch you with your team, and send me your AAU where I've watched you with guys you don't really know. How do you fit in playing with those type of guys that you're not accustomed to playing to? That's also important. So I would say all three because, like I said, We do have a lot of time right now. We're not going anywhere. So the more film you can get us, the better.
No, 100%. And then when it comes to Ivy League camps, I know UAA schools, NESCAC schools really use those as a opportunity to look at players. Does Brandeis go to those camps? Are you guys out on that whole circuit?
Yeah, last summer, obviously, having, being in the Ivy League prior to this, the elite camps to me were very, very helpful to identifying, high-level Division II, Division III talent. So, obviously, when I got the job, the first thing that we did was, we targeted every single Ivy League camp. And, last summer we went to, about 3 or 4, and we actually got one of our top guys out of one of the camps. So, yeah, I mean, hopefully, like I said, hopefully things open back up. And if they do, we will be at every single Ivy League camp. For sure.
Is there any skill in those camps, like specifically like attribute or skill that a player can do to stand out that you look for?
I think the biggest thing that I look for is, how does a player react when they're not getting the ball, when they play in these things? Where I have, I get a foul, I say, this kid's supposed to be good, but I go watch him and he's not getting the ball because, he's playing with a guy that might take more shots than him, or he's in a different environment. How does that one player, respond? Obviously, the other thing that we watch is the skill work. When we go watch, drill sessions, skill sessions, how does that player go through the drill sessions? Is he just kind of, half speed and saving himself for the game, or is he going hard and pushing himself and trying to get better? Because all those things are part of practices when you get to the next level. So you got to be able to do both. So that's the one thing that I do try to focus on, just watching these guys when they do individual skill work, how much they put in. And I think that's one of the things that you can really, really evaluate when you go to a lot of these Ivy League schools, camps. You can really evaluate, individual workouts, how good of a shooter, how good of a ball handler, how good of a passer. You get a chance to kind of see those things. Well, you might not get a chance. You might not see that in the game. So I think those things are extremely important as well.
I love that. That's so true. You never know who's watching. You never know those little things you do before you're actually playing, how important they are. It's a really good advice.
Coach, I wanted to follow up. So for the players that are listening, right, so they probably don't know a ton about your background in terms of your playing days, but obviously you came in to Northeastern and you won America East Rookie of the Year. So you made that transition. I think one thing a lot of kids struggle with is going from maybe being one of the better players on their high school or club team to then going to college and having to start over. So if you could give, these kids that are watching the call tonight a little bit of advice on some things maybe that you did or some things that you've seen in your time coaching that really helps kids transition from that final year of high school or club ball to giving them success at the next level, what would that be?
I think the biggest thing that I can give them is you got to trust, you got to trust your coaches and you got to trust the process. Very early in my career at Northeastern, I wasn't playing much once the season started. As a freshman, sometimes you don't know. I always have a saying, freshmen, they don't know. They have to be taught every single day, how to approach practice, how to come in prepared for practice. Those are all things that you have to learn, and it takes a while for you to learn them. You're going to hit a wall, and you can't just give in and say, well, this is too hard. You got to keep fighting. That's what I did. I had a chance to learn from the older guys, and I really focused on coming in and doing extra work, getting extra shooting in, even when I was not playing, so I could stay ready. You just got to keep yourself ready, and you got to trust the coaches that, they know what they're doing. And if you put the work in, the rewards will come. To me, there's no magic potion. There's no magic pill. You just got to work and continue to get better daily, and your time will come.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's really, really important advice for the people, and hopefully they're listening to that. Another question I had for you, obviously you mentioned, having coming out to recruit West Coast a lot in other parts of the country. Obviously, we were lucky to have you come out at some of our high academic camps. So what is it about, being a player and moving to a student, I should say, going to a different part of the country to attend school? Obviously, great schools in the New England area, such as Brandeis, but what do you love so much about recruiting guys from kind of different parts of the country?
I love the fact that these guys want to be challenged. They don't want to be in the comfort of their backyard, because there's times you recruit a kid and you hear, well, he really wants to stay home. He doesn't want to leave. Well, if I don't want to recruit that guy, I want a guy that wants to, experience different things, go play with different players, go to a school where they don't know anybody, they don't know much, but they're willing to take that challenge. I think that's something that I love about recruiting the kids in that area. I recruited them when I was at Dartmouth. I recruited them when I was at Columbia. We had success with a lot of West Coast kids because once they came out here, it was a different kind of brand of basketball, and they seemed to like it. We want to continue doing that here at Brandeis. In fact, we have a young man coming in from San Francisco next year, point guard, who's a really talented player. And the one thing he mentioned to me the first time I talked to him was, Coach, I don't want to stay home. I want new challenges. I want to go to a different part of the country. And obviously coming to school in this area, there's so many different things that, Boston's a great city. You got the Boston Celtics. You got the Boston Red Sox.
Best city, Coach. I shouldn't say that. I got a lot of LA people on here, but
I know. But I just want to let them know there's so many different things that you can take advantage of. Just like if I was a student athlete up in the East Coast and, I wanted to go to school in the West Coast, you guys have so many things to offer. I think that's the beauty of going away, as a student athlete is just, you're in the unknown. I think that's a challenge. I think a lot of kids from the West Coast love that. I've seen a lot of kids come from that way, have a lot of success coming to school on the East Coast.
Awesome. We got a couple more minutes here. And just as a reminder, guys, I know some of you guys have been putting some questions in the chat. We'll make sure that all these questions that don't get answered will get sent to Coach Bain, and also his email is in there as well. So take a look in the chat and you can reach out and ask him some more follow-up questions. Real quick, kind of before we get off, Coach, what is one thing kind of as you've come up as an assistant and now as a head coach, what's one kind of pillar for you, whether that's part of your philosophy, culture, one thing that, when you're talking to players or parents or recruiting, one thing that you really try to instill and make crystal clear to kids before they come to Brandeis, this is what they can expect and this is kind of what your program is built on?
Yeah, the one thing that I always stress is I'm going to make you a better basketball player, but more importantly, I'm going to make you a better person, a better man once you leave here. Because, I went through it as a young man and, I had coaches that understood that and they taught me that way. And that's the way that, I kind of approach it with every single kid. My job is to definitely get you as a better basketball player. But my realistic job is, to get you to understand that, life is hard and, you're going to get challenges. What do you do when you get challenged? Do you stop? No, you got to continue to go. And that's kind of what, I've instilled in some of my guys and will continue to do is just get them prepared for the game of life.
That's awesome, Coach. No, that's big time. And I think all coaches on this call would echo that, but that's really, really important to make sure that that's being communicated, obviously. And not a better guy that I've met in this business besides you, Coach, to be able to do that. Like I said, we, gotten to know you well and being at our events and just all the stops along the way. So you've been great to us, and hopefully, we get a chance to get back on the court soon and in the gym, and hopefully get a chance to get you back out here and keep recruiting. But you've been awesome with us. And is there anything else, Coach, before we get off here that you wanted to mention or touch on before we sign off?
No, man, like I said, just want to thank you guys for having me. Like I've had a long, relationship with West Coast Elite. You guys do a tremendous job with your kids. I mean, there's not a day that I don't go on social media. You guys aren't promoting one of your student athletes. And I think that's tremendous, man. And you guys really care about your kids. That's to me is the number one thing. And you guys just keep doing what you're doing. And like I said, hopefully things will open back up. We'll be back in communication out there.
Yeah, I appreciate you very much, Coach. If anybody on this call wants to get out some more information from Coach or reach out, feel free to shoot him an email. Go on the website, check him out. If you're reaching out to talk smack about Boston, don't do that. Just keep your LA stuff on the West Coast and we'll keep the Boston stuff on the East Coast. But no, we really appreciate you, Coach, coming on and kicking the night off for us. Really, really excited to keep staying in touch and hopefully keep, getting some guys excited about Brandeis over, 3,000 miles away. Amazing place. You're an amazing guy. We appreciate you for being on with us tonight.
Nah, thank you guys, man. You guys are one of the best in the business. Keep doing what you guys are doing, man.
Thanks, Coach. All right. We'll talk to you soon.
Take care. Good luck.
Stay safe.
Thank you, Coach.
How's it going?
Excellent. How about yourself?
Doing well. Would love to introduce Coach Mike McGrath from University of Chicago. Coach has been doing his thing in Chicago for a very, very long time. we're really excited. He's come to a lot of our events. He's just been a great part of what we're trying to do with West Coast Elite basketball, and getting some really high academic student athletes to move to the Windy City. So first things first, Coach, thanks for being here with us tonight. We really appreciate it. For the people that are here viewing tonight, give us a little bit of background about kind of what led you to University of Chicago and kind of your background there.
Well, I watched all of Gene's conversation with you guys before this, and I was thinking as I was watching it, like 20 years ago, that's who I was. And high energy and excited, and it's been fun having Gene in our league for the past couple of years and coaching against them. And I'm kind of at a different end of the spectrum. I've been at Chicago for 21 years now, and it's been an unbelievable experience. And like the way Gene talked about Brandeis, this is part of why I'm at Chicago, is this was home for me. And the city's been home. It's where I'm from. I love it here. Family and friends are all here. And, I didn't know the University of Chicago would be home when I started working there. I started as a volunteer assistant, and then kind of moved up to the full-time assistant job. And, then at 28 years old, got the head coaching job there. And, I started realizing that was my home too. The university is an unbelievable place, and it's my home, and it's where I belong, and love the people there. And it just kind of fit me. And that's one of the things, and Matt, you and I, Scott, we haven't met before, but Matt, you and I have talked a lot about fit in this process. And, the recruiting process, I think, for high school students is very similar to what I went through in terms of deciding to work at the University of Chicago. I didn't get into coaching thinking I wanted to be the head coach at the University of Chicago. I got into coaching college basketball thinking I wanted to be Mike Krzyzewski. That looked like fun. That looked like what he does looks like a lot of fun, and that's what got me excited about it. And I pursued that, and I worked really hard at that, and I did everything I could to try to, be a coach at a place like Duke. And it just, as I worked along that, I found a perfect fit for me. And I think that's what, a typical guy watching this conversation right now should be trying to do. Having really lofty goals, and then, aiming for that and figuring out what that is. And then as you go through the process, trying to keep your feet on the ground and figure out where you belong and what's important to you. And when I thought about what's important to me, I found all that at Chicago.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah, and I've been lucky enough, like you mentioned, we've been able to get to know each other through recruiting some players that I've worked with, and I've actually spent a lot of time on campus and in Chicago. So it's an amazing place to be, and you obviously wouldn't have been there that long if you didn't love it there. So it's a great school. I definitely encourage a lot of people to take a look at it. And then obviously from the basketball side, Coach, I mean, you're all-time winningest coach in program history, 3-time UAA Coach of the Year. Talk a little bit about the program and the players that you've got a chance to coach, and how you've gotten to kind of develop University of Chicago within such a competitive league like we just touched on.
Yeah, the thing about Chicago is it's an amazing academic institution. Listening to Gene talk about Brandeis, and Brian will probably come on and do the same thing about Occidental. The funny thing is at the University of Chicago, we don't spend a lot of time talking about the academic side of things. It's as good a school as you can go to in the country. And there's 10 or 12 schools in the country that can say that. We're one of them. And if that's something that's attractive to you, and it is attractive to a lot of good players, then, you might end up on our radar, and we might end up on yours, and it might be the right fit. That's the first question you have to ask and answer is, what kind of academic experience are you looking for? And if you want something like that, if that's something that intrigues you, that kind of opportunity is important to you, then we can kind of move into the basketball realm and the campus life realm and some of those things. Again, trying to figure out if it's a fit. And to do that from a basketball standpoint, the great advantage the challenge to Chicago is there aren't a lot of guys we can recruit.
Sure.
You go around the country, and Gene was talking about test scores and GPAs, and all my friends at various schools do that. And, I mean, it's as competitive to get into Chicago as it is anywhere in the country. We had 40,000 people apply last year, and we accepted about 2,600.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's really amazing that way. And they're great. So we have a very small pool, but the nice thing is within that pool, there's some amazingly talented athletes. There's some really, really good basketball players who want that kind of academic experience, And when we find that overlap, what I've learned is, we're able to find some really, really good basketball players they're why we've had as much success as we've had.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. So you touched on it really quick, Coach. Just obviously you got to find a kid that wants that academic experience before you can even go down the route of basketball. So, obviously right now kids are all trying to, they're sending their highlights, their videos and everything like that. So, for you, how does that work for you in a time like this that we're currently in? How do you start to identify which kids are in the academic side of it and then obviously the basketball side next?
Quite candidly, we haven't done it that much yet.
Cool.
For me, and again, it was interesting listening to Gene, I don't put a lot of weight into film. We're going to have to put more of it in this year. Sure. I also don't put a lot of weight into summer evaluations. I feel like an Ivy League camp or a AAU event where West Coast Elite's playing or things like that, prospect camps, I feel like it's almost a different game. You guys both coach high school basketball. Mm-hmm. It's a different game when it's played over the summer than it is during the year. And I find it very challenging to get a good feel for guys in that environment. We use those events and the hundreds of them that take place across the country more to kind of identify and get an initial feel for guys than to really get an in-depth feel for them. And that in-depth feel, a lot of times we really make our final decisions when we get to the fall at our prospect camp and when I go around the high school open gyms and fall events and things like that to really see kids with their teams. The same can be said for the academic side of things. We can start out and get a kid's GPA and sometimes have their test score, but that doesn't tell us a lot about what a kid is like as a student. There are guys out there with 4.0s and 35 ACTs who aren't motivated to go to a top 10 school in the country. That's just not how they're wired, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. There's a mentality that goes along with the type of student that we're looking for. And this year, so obviously we haven't been able to go out and evaluate in person the way we would like to this summer. And, we don't know when that's going to happen. Additionally, evaluating a transcript now or evaluating a prospective student is as hard as it's ever been. I don't know what transcripts are going to look like at the end of this quarter. I suspect I'm going to see a lot of pass-fail grades. I suspect I don't think I'm going to have the depth that I normally have. And we're not a big test score dominant school. That's not a big factor for us in the admissions process, but it is a really good litmus test. You get a kid out there who's got a 4.0 and he's in the top 5% of his class, but he gets a 22 on his ACT. Maybe he's just a bad test taker, and sometimes you'll dig further on that. But a lot of times it gives you a sense of what those grades mean. That's kind of how I use it. And we have less of that than we've had in the past. So we've kind of taken a one step at a time approach. We're watching a lot of film. We're talking to a lot of guys. We're trying to get to know them. We're sharing a lot of information with guys. And, end of June, we're going to kind of see where things are at in terms of moving forward. We typically have our class wrapped up by November, and I suspect that won't be the case this year. I suspect it'll be a longer process.
Got it. Okay. Yeah. So obviously the current situation has changed things a little bit for you guys just in terms of your timetables, but hasn't changed anything in terms of the type of player that you're looking for, somebody that's going to have success at University of Chicago.
Yeah, for us, and and Matt, you and I talked about this the other day. One of the things I'd also like to do as we chat is, hopefully help people out there. When I answer Matt's questions and when Scott asks some, I don't need to, and we don't need to, I don't need to sell the University of Chicago. It's an amazing school. If people out there are interested in it, we'd love to talk to you more. It's a great school. It's a great city. It's a great campus, blah, 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 blah. And we have a really good basketball program. The question is this is easy. Doing what I do and doing what you guys is easy. What I think is really hard is being a 17, 18-year-old kid and trying to figure out where to freaking go to college. I think that's really hard. There's a lot of people who share a lot of opinions and thoughts with you and different things like that. And what I look for in a player, or what Gene looks for in a player, I wanted to play for Gene after watching him talk. He was awesome. Have coaching against him. He's a great guy to play for. And everybody, you guys sitting out there, you ask a coach how he plays, we all play fast. We're all going to, and if we haven't played fast, we're going to play faster because you guys like how that sounds.
Yep.
And some people do it and some people don't. And you got to kind of work your way through that. In the end, what we look for at the University of Chicago is guys who want to be players. The world is full. We can't force guys to be players. You're not given a scholarship. Playing time and scoring averages probably aren't going to relate to a professional career. That's not kind of how our guys are wired. So I don't kind of have those things to kind of motivate people the way other colleges do. We have to have guys who just, at their heart, at their core, are basketball players. And they want to be the best player they can. And when things in life start to appear, whether it's jobs, whether it's internships, whether it's college life, whether it's school, that they're always going to prioritize trying to become a player. And that's really hard. Just like it's hard for an 18-year-old to figure out if what I'm saying is what they're all about. It's also hard for us to figure that out about kids. Everybody says the right things, and it's the hardest part about our job. And we got to try to find guys who really want to be good. And that's the number one priority for us.
That's awesome. Great. Thank you, Coach. I'm going to toss it over to Scott for a couple questions now.
Hey, Scott.
Hey, Coach. Appreciate you coming on tonight. A question I actually got today was, how much weight does the high school have? Like a stronger academic high school per se, or a stronger basketball program? How does that come into the fold?
Basketball program, there's really two different evaluations that are taking place, right? Like and they overlap a little bit, but there's this kind of admissions applying to the school, and it's tricky when you have 40,000 kids who apply and you accept 2,000 of them. There's no pat answer to this. There's no pat way to answer that. Like, there are kids who go to great schools who get in, and I think that because they went to a great school, it helped them. There are other kids who go to great schools who don't, and for whatever reason it didn't work out. Our admissions office does everything on a very personal basis. And sometimes there's a guy that we like who goes to a school that's not, on our radar. We don't get a ton of applications from, but we just really like that kid, and he becomes one of the 2,000. I think the same thing could be said for a basketball evaluation. When I first started at the University of Chicago, there's a handful of schools in the city of Chicago that are high-end academic institutions, just kind of high-powered. My first couple of years as assistant, I would go to those schools every year, whether they had a player or not. I would go watch an open gym. I would get to know the coach and just kind of network. And there are some of those schools, Scott, where we've never gotten a player from in 27 years. I mean, I've been doing it for 27 years, and we've never had a kid from some of these places because it's such a narrow niche. It's, I try to explain to people in our admissions office what we're trying to do. We're trying to find a guy who can get into one of the best schools in the country, who wants to make that kind of investment academically and financially, because no matter, we have a great financial aid program, but it's a sacrifice, and is a really talented player who wants to be a player. That you're threading the needle with that. And I haven't found there's a lot of common denominators to that answer, if that makes sense.
No, that makes sense. Very interesting. And then I was doing my research today too. I know you have a role with NABC and the NCAA Rules Committee. Can you talk about that and how that experience has been and what that entails?
Yeah, so I'm on the NCAA Rules Committee. So with the Rules Committee, there's 3 Division III representatives on it. I've been on it for 3 years. It's really fun. There's some Division I people, some Division II, some Division III. And it's our job to kind of make recommendations of what we feel the rules of the game should be. Do we move back the three-point line? Do we make the lane bigger? What should the shot clock be? And it's really interesting to see a lot of people from a lot of different areas of the game, officials, coaches, administrators, come together and try to figure out what's best for college basketball. So that's been a 4-year appointment. I'm going into my last year now, and it's really been fun. The NABC thing is a different thing. I'm on the board of directors for the National Association of Basketball Coaches, which is our kind of professional organization as coaches. And the guy I worked for when I first got to the University of Chicago taught me to get involved. broadly in the game, and try to help the game and try to help do things right. And having that opportunity on the NABC board of directors as one of the 2 Division III representatives has been terrific. Part of my job is to try to figure out what's best for, I represent Division III, but you're also trying to figure out what's best for college basketball. A lot of our conversations recently have been about some of the changes that you guys are experiencing about the recruiting calendar and what's best and how do we do that, and how do we do that with scholastic opportunities, how do we do that with AAU and club opportunities, how do we do that with university camps, prospect camps, trying to figure out when we know what we can do, what would be the best model. And another one of the big topics that you guys have read about, the guys out there probably seen online a lot, is talking about the transfer rules and the idea that somebody could transfer and not sit out a year. And that's been a big topic of conversation, something we've spent a lot of time on. That's, I love the University of Chicago. I love coaching basketball there. I love what we've built here, but we're part of something that's bigger and something that's really special. And it's important to be engaged in that. And it's really been rewarding for me to be involved in that. What I found is, we've won our share of championships, but we don't win them every year. The stuff I do as a part of the game, I can be successful at every year. Mm-hmm. And that provides some job satisfaction, even when your team isn't at the level that you want them to be.
Do you have tryouts, or how does the process go when kids are on campus? So I know
So in a typical year, we will have somewhere between 3 to 5 kids who know they're on the team based on the recruiting process. I am talking to admissions about those kids and trying to, do what I can to help their application. Usually I think we find guys that admissions likes anyway, but, and they know that when they decide to come and they're at the University of Chicago, that they're recruited, they're on the team, and they're on the team for 4 years. I make that commitment. What I say is, if we recruit you, and if you come to Chicago, I'm committed to you, and I'm committed to you being on this team for 4 years. And unless your behavior is unacceptable, that doesn't happen in our place. Mm-hmm. So there are also guys in a given year, and this doesn't happen often because our admissions rate is pretty low, but you'll have a handful of guys who apply to Chicago, get admitted, decide to come, who aren't kind of promised being part of the team. Sometimes they're guys we've watched and evaluated and we're just not sold on. Sometimes they're guys we know nothing about. They got admitted, they decided to come, and they want to try out. And we do have tryouts for them. And occasionally somebody out of that process will make our team.
You have multiple levels or just the one team?
Just the one team.
Okay.
I really believe that if you're going to make a choice, and this goes back to the kids who are sitting out there and you're thinking about things, nobody promises anybody anything. Mm-hmm. And, Zion Williamson wasn't promised anything when he went to Duke. The guys Gene was talking about who were going to Brandeis, they weren't promised anything. We don't promise anything to our guys, except this: you're going to be part of our team. You're going to have a role in our success, and you're going to have access to playing time. And I think if you have a JV team, you can't say that to a kid. I think, because the thing is it's just like watching Division I right now and the guys who are declaring for the draft. I mean, there's 80 draft picks or something, and there's 8,000 guys who declared for the draft. Like, the math doesn't work, right? If there are 25 guys in a program and 5 guys start, the math doesn't work. And what you find in a lot of those programs, Scott, is they'll have 12, 13, 14 freshmen, and then on senior day, there's 3 or 4 guys left. What they do is they evaluate guys once they get them there. And what we try to do is we try to evaluate them really aggressively when they're in high school and make that decision before they get here, so they know they're part of a team, they have a commitment for us, they have a role in a team. So if you're one of 14 guys, you have a role in that team. And, I'm committed to those guys. I'm committed.
It's a great process. Just looking at them for a longer period of time and then really evaluating if they fit a 4-year program guy.
It's so hard though, Scott. I mean, every year we're in a position where there's a guy out there who we're just not sold on. Mm-hmm. Evaluation's an inexact science. And sometimes there's things you miss, especially when you're recruiting nationally like us. You know, Matt and I have an experience together on something that I missed in an evaluation process. You know, and I think I do it pretty well, and I think I missed something because it just happens. And that's my responsibility. You know, that's my job to figure that out. And every year I occasionally have a guy who's not quite what I thought he would be. And more often there's guys on other teams who we just weren't sure we really thought were there. You know, and I follow them all. You know, now with the internet and everything, you can see everybody's stats and playing time wherever they end up. And I'm like, oh, damn, he's way better than I thought. And you just kick yourself and you hate that, but it does happen. And if I had a JV program and we could bring in 12 guys a year, I have to make choices. Places at JV programs, bringing in 12 guys a year, they're not making choices. And that puts a high school senior, a prospect, in a disadvantaged situation, I think.
No, 100%. And you had players from 9 states and Canada. That's correct from last year?
I think I did the math. We're up to 30 in my 26 years. We've had 30 different states. Canada kind of counts as a foreign country, but this year we're adding somebody from Turkey. This year we're adding Turkey, so we really have somebody from a foreign country.
Yeah,
so awesome. It's one of the fun parts, you know, Scott, of the job is what we say as our basketball program is, if you come to the University of Chicago, you are absolutely going to get as good an education as you can in this country. And if you're part of our basketball program, you are absolutely going to make friends for the rest of your life. You know, those are givens. It's going to happen. And it's so much fun to watch these guys. Because of the way we recruit, the type of school we are, we get guys from all over the place, in big towns, small towns, rural, you know, you name it, different religions, different races, but they have a lot in common. And it shows because of the school they chose, right? It's a fit. What made it a fit? The things they have in common. And then you take these guys around and you pull them together and you build Gene's talking about building the culture of Brandeis. We've been doing this for 27 years before people said culture. And the culture is we're going to become great friends. And it's just so enjoyable to watch that variety come together and watch them bond. And the best part of my job is I go to about 5 weddings a year. And you go around to those things and you see how these guys stay in touch over time. It's what makes this just so much fun.
Yeah, honestly, I think that's from the experience that I've had, Coach, getting to know you and having you recruit some guys that I've worked with and hearing their feedback about you. One of the most amazing things that they've mentioned is that tree, that network that you have. And it's not just, you know, former coaches that you've worked with that are now head coaches. It's business people, it's doctors, it's lawyer, it's all that stuff. So talk a little bit just about what that tree means to you and how, you know, staying in touch, going to weddings, all those things that, you know, are really meaningful for you. And I'm sure what motivate you and kind of drive you to continue doing what you do.
Well, again, going back to what I just said to Scott, we want to win championships, but the relationships that you build within a basketball program are what's most important. And we prioritize that, and that comes first. And it takes time and it takes effort. And I love these guys and I work really hard at maintaining that and building that. And it just pays so many dividends that you can't even count. You know, we've got a group of people out there who are incredibly engaged in our program, incredibly engaged in our current players. And, you know, they got a lot out of it. They put a lot back into it. One of the things I say about the University of Chicago and our basketball program is at the end of the day, you got to ask yourself, am I taking from it more than I'm giving to it? And the answer for me is I'm getting more from it than I'm giving to it, but I'm trying hard to change that. The reason is because it's just so, the people are so amazing. And it's what it's all about. It's really fun. And when you watch these guys kind of over time be as engaged as they are, the message for me is this, and this is where it ties back to recruiting. So since 1995, we've had 17 kids leave our program. Everybody else has played for all 4 years. And in this day and age, that's incredibly uncommon. And those people, I've got about 100 former players, and I'll talk to 95 of them this year. It's one of the things I've been doing this quarantine is calling a bunch of guys and reaching out to them and seeing how they're doing, and them talking to each other. And they were told some things about what their experience would be like in the University of Chicago basketball program, and they had that experience. And they feel like they got what they expected from what I told them. And there's not a lot of bad feelings because of that. We start with that foundation of trust. And because they had a good experience, because they made great friends, because they got a great education, because their lives are so good now because of the experience they had in college, because they won games, because they competed at a high level of basketball and were predominantly successful, they want to give back and they want to be involved in what we're doing now. And there's a lot of people out there that will tell high school seniors what their experience will be like if they can go to their school. What we say is what we tell you you can experience, you will experience. Look at all these guys who did it.
Sure.
And it's kind of a cycle. It's like recruiting, the student athlete experience, and then the alumni experience, and they all kind of feed one another.
Yeah.
So.
No, it's amazing. And that's huge. Ryan always talks about the 40-year plan, what's coming after college. And obviously, a degree and an experience at a place like University of Chicago most certainly is going to put you in a great situation to, have an amazing career, whether that's in sports, outside of sports. We have just a couple more minutes here, Coach. One thing that I kind of wanted to pick your brain and very curious about getting an answer from you here before we sign off. So, a big trend now, I'm sure you can see, is kids, putting together a list. Here are my top 8 schools, or, kids not really knowing, what I'm going to talk to this guy, but I'm not going to answer him until I hear back from this guy or whatever. Obviously, you guys, you don't have time to waste in the recruiting process, and you have a very specific type of kid that you're interested in. So for the students or the young people that are here and they're trying to make those lists and they're trying to decide what's important, what advice do you have for those guys in terms of, if University of Chicago or wherever it may be is the place for them, how can they go about, communicating that and prioritizing that?
Yeah, there's a lot there, man. There's some great questions, but let me put a couple together. It's May of your junior year in high school. Zion Williamson probably could have had a list right now. Kobe probably could have had a list right now. Most guys on this call probably shouldn't have a list yet. I just went and told you, we haven't had a single prospect visit our campus. There's nobody out there we have absolutely said, we want that guy.
Yep.
You know what I mean? It's a process. And if you're narrowing it down that much this early, you're probably being pretty aggressive. What I tell kids they should be doing right now is not putting together a list of schools, but trying to determine a model of the type of school they want to go to.
Love that. Yep.
And then take that model, try to identify schools that fit into that model, and reach out to those coaches. Now, while you're doing that, your model could be Duke, Carolina, and Kentucky, and none of them may want you. You better keep your options open. Everybody says that. At some point, you can't have all of your options open, but right now you probably should. Right now, especially this year, I don't think there's any major reason to be narrowing things down yet. What I find in recruiting is what I said about my own process. I started out thinking I wanted to be Mike Krzyzewski, and I'm really happy being Mike McGrath at the University of Chicago. It was a process for me to figure that out, and you need to be open to that. And you need to do that yourself with your family, and with maybe, I really discourage people from letting too many voices get into that. Gene, in your conversations with Gene, it was like, it could have been like a game where, every time the word Ivy was said, we all could have jumped up and down or something. Like, people just say that word, Ivy, Ivy, Ivy. I mean, our school's better academically than most Ivy League schools. So's MIT. So's Caltech. Like, it becomes this thing that everybody just talks about. And I never use the word, and I did now, but I try not to, because it means nothing. it means nothing. I'll give you an example. Dartmouth is the right school for some people. Columbia is the right school for some people. If Columbia is the right school for you, Dartmouth probably isn't, and vice versa.
Yep.
They couldn't be more different institutions. But you know what? They're both in the Ivy League. They both have the same thing. Same in our league. New York University is the most unique college in the country. It's a great place if that's the experience that you want. And we find over time, we talk to kids who are interested in NYU, and when they are, there's other schools in the UA they're probably not interested in. Figure out what you want and explore those you think you want. Explore those kind of schools and let that lead you a little bit before kind of putting together a list. We never ask kids about lists. We ask kids if they're interested in Chicago.
Yeah. And one thing that I've gotten to really respect about you and appreciate about you, Coach, is, we talked about this offline, but you're going to keep it real, right? You're going to tell a kid, this is what, just like you are with our young people that are on the call tonight, you're giving them advice so that they can make a well-rounded decision. And if that decision includes University of Chicago, great. But if not, you're hoping that they can just find that best fit. So
here's what I think. And I do this, and Gene mentioned, I get bombarded with emails and people reaching out. We respond to everything. And I think part of my job as an educator and being a basketball coach at the youth is, I think what high school seniors are doing right now is really hard. I think trying to pick a college with all the stuff that's out there and all the stuff that you hear and all the pressures that's put on it, and I think it's hard on parents too. I think it's one of the most challenging things to go through. And if I can help people manage that process, that's what a big part of our prospect camps is how does, not whether or not you should go to the University of Chicago, but how should you go through this process? What steps should you take? How do you narrow a list down? How do you put a list together? Because it's really hard. And if I identify somebody we really want, I'll sell the University of Chicago pretty hard. You've seen me do that too, Matt.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, and if anybody has questions, if anybody's struggling, don't ever hesitate to reach out, because as much as I can help people, I like to try to do that.
Well, we appreciate you, Coach. Yeah, I really encourage anybody that's here listening in. Coach's email is below in the chat box. If you guys have questions, please feel free to reach out to him. Coach will turn over every rock, every stone that he can to find the right kids. And we really appreciate for, all the support from our events and things like that. Just been a great person to work with. And we hope to continue to do that whenever that time comes to get back in the gym. Coach McGrath, can't thank you enough for being on with us tonight. Really valuable for our young people to hear that. And we look forward to seeing you again soon.
Thanks. Appreciate you guys.
Thank you, Coach.
Take care, Coach. Hey. We got you loud and clear. What's up, Coach?
All right. Nada, good seeing you. You hit the West Coast.
We're here. You look like you've been hitting the beach a little bit. You getting some color going. I like it.
Got the beard too.
The beard had to come. Yeah, double days on the tennis courts. There's not much to do in California. The beach and tennis.
We are really, really excited for our third and final speaker of the evening, Coach Brian Newhall from Occidental. Coach has been, as I've only been out working with West Coast Elite for just over 2 years now, but I know every event that I've been at, Coach has been there. He's been a speaker. He's been leading drills. He's been coaching teams. It's really been incredible to get to work with you, Coach, and get to know you over my time here with West Coast Elite, and I can only imagine Scotty as well. So for people that are out there that may not know about you, just give us a little bit of a background about kind of, what brought you into coaching, what brought you to Occidental in the first place.
Sure. I'm ready to commit to University of Chicago. I have to say that. Man, that guy is good. Yeah. Well, my story is a little bit unique, and I grew up in Portland, Oregon, went to Wilson High School, youngest of 5 kids. All 4 of my brothers and sisters ended up attending Occidental College. I was the 5th, and I was dead set on going to the NBA. So Occidental wasn't a great fit. That's a joke, by the way. Oddly enough, both my parents went to Pomona. So here I was, the 5th kid. I wanted to play basketball. I thought I was much better than I was. Bill Westfall was the head coach at Occidental College. I am a competitive tennis player, and I wanted to play two sports, which you can do in Division III. So I decided to come to sunny California after many visits, seeing my brothers and sisters. Went to Occidental, played basketball and tennis, graduated, waited for my wife, Amy, to graduate from Occidental. And then we went off on a little adventure to France. I still wanted to continue playing basketball, so I was in France for 2 years, playing, coaching basketball, teaching tennis. She wanted to start graduate school at USC and got her PhD in social psychology. We came back, or I'd be a French citizen, I think. And I started applying, looking at different places. Bill Westfall came back, oddly enough, and there was an NBA level coach. I applied for the $700 salary. He took me very quickly. I was the JV coach, and I got to learn from 2 years from an incredible guy who was, I call him a little bit of an offensive genius. As in the SCIAC, there's a long history of good coaches. So I was very fortunate for 2 years. Coach Westfall, lucky for me, story for a lot of people, I was in the right place, right time. He left to take another job replacing his brother Paul at Grand Canyon. I applied, had an interim year. We had a good team, and I got the job, and I've been there for 32 years since.
Wow, that's amazing. And I think one of the most amazing things, Coach, about your time at Occidental, 100% graduation rate of all of your players, which is really just remarkable. Obviously, you attract a certain type of student athlete to Occidental, but still to be able to graduate every single player that you coach is pretty amazing. So, talk a little bit about just the university and what sort of types of student athletes do you attract to Occidental?
Yeah, all the schools you're talking to are incredible. High end, everyone who goes Division III, they're wrong if they're going to play basketball. You're going to Chicago to get a degree. You're going to Brandeis. You're going to Occidental to get a degree. If the players come in and start talking about something else, it's a red flag. You're coming to Occidental to get a high-end liberal arts degree. You're also going to play basketball. Your basketball career is not going to be your identity. You're there to study. Your boy Ryan Silver stole it from me, my 40-year plan. Now he's all of a sudden patented. I was saying that before that guy was even born. But it really is about the 40-year plan. You're coming, you're going to graduate in 4 years. Often people maybe want to go on a European adventure. I still wanted to play. A lot of these guys are really good. They get the basketball bug. You might go to Europe for 2 or 3 years, but in reality, you're going to come back. You're going to get a law degree, an MBA, med school, whatever it is, and get a job. You've also heard Harvey Rubin, jobs, jobs, jobs. That's the real thing about D3, that we graduate. I'm not banging on Division I, but if you look at the graduation rates, it's not good. So when people want to talk about playing Division I and all the hype about playing Division I just see it differently. I see, wow, okay, I want to go play. I want to get a degree. And then, I'll talk to the parents. Well, why don't you go ask that kid where he is 10 years later? Then come back and ask one of my players where he is 10 years later. And, the bottom line is D3 often wins that battle. I'll tell them, yeah, our players make NBA money, but we just do it differently. We've got CEOs, we've got doctors, it's just, and all across the board. You heard him about University of Chicago. If my son got into Chicago, I'm telling my son to go to Chicago. My son got into Caltech, I'm telling my son to go to Caltech. Bottom line is you can play, and if you get admitted to those type of places, you just go. To me, it's like getting into Stanford. A lot of these schools you've had on are just so good that I go.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And we're hoping that there's a lot of young people here, class of 21, and even some younger guys and girls that are starting to get excited about that process and are interested in Occidental because of that academic reputation and what jobs are coming. And it's a little, I'll have to talk to Ryan about that. I'll give him some slack about the fact that he stole your coined term.
It's in his book too, Coach.
Oh, jeez.
No, that's amazing. And last question before I toss it over to Scott with some more. So obviously you've been at Occidental, you played there, you've been coaching there for a tremendous amount of time, had a lot of success there. What is it about the school or the basketball program or the environment, that the setting, that has made you want to stick around and the reason why, you think so many people are really interested in applying and attending Occidental?
A lot of the coaches have talked about it is fit, destination job. You come up thinking you want to do something different. I'm a little bit of the last of the Mohicans in that I want to be at Division III. I like where I'm at. I have lots of friends, Division I and the NBA all over the place. One of the things is quality of life. You know, I'm a present parent, so I've got 3 kids, 1 out of school, 2 going off to college, but I got to go to Little League games. I got to coach in the YMCA. I got to be there. And then the second part is just the players. My players graduate. We have lifelong relationships. You know, coaches have touched on this, where I'm just not using you for 4 years. We know each other. We agree to disagree sometimes. You know, you've got playing time in a team sport. But our guys, they come, they graduate. It's a pleasant atmosphere. I really do like Los Angeles. We live in South Pasadena, 3.5 miles away from Oxy, so I have no commute. My wife commutes out to the Claremont colleges, 30-minute drive. All of our kids have enjoyed Los Angeles. You know, the weather's not a reason why you stay at a place, but being in sunny Southern California is nice. You know, I know you're a poor East Coast guy and the West Coast is the best coast, but you're gradually coming around. I don't know if you'll ever go back to Boston, you got a little taste of California. You know,
Yeah,
I do like the Celtics.
I'm taking walks on the beach, Coach. I don't do that in Boston.
You're learning. No, but it's a pleasant environment. All these places, you know, some people go D3, stay for 5 years, bump up, become Division I assistant. I just haven't liked that model. I really like the level, the competitive nature. You know, they're you know, as you know, basketball is basketball. There are 100 high school coaches who just weren't like me in the right place at the right time, who are fantastic coaches. Coaching is partly networking, politics, being in the right spot at the right time. So I feel lucky. You know, when I heard Coach McGrath talk about feel lucky and other people talking about being lucky to be at their place, that's how I felt. You know, it's a job, but it's never felt like a job.
Got you, Coach. No, that's awesome. I'm going to toss it over to Scott. I have some more questions for you.
Yeah.
Coach, for those who don't know about Occidental, what kind of academic profile are you looking for in a prospective athlete?
Well, it's tough. It varies. The admissions director, who I've nicknamed Dr. No, is named Vince Cuzio. So everything runs against the admissions people. So when he sees me, his head is saying no. Oxy's, it's an interesting niche because we're a backup school to Caltech. We're a backup school to Chicago. We're a backup school to the Ivies. And I don't have a problem saying that. So, you know, we're still looking for a 3.7 1400 SAT. That's an incredible student. The other places you're talking about, you heard the statistics, 40 people applied, 40,000, 2,000 got in. So Occidental is an excellent school. I would say one of the nice things, you do have a little bit of a life. Oxy's not a pressure cooker. It's intense. Once you write well, once you figure out kind of the system, so to speak, everyone goes to class, you sit in the front row, you participate in the group discussions, you go to get your rough drafts done. It's kind of a fun place to go. There are a lot of fun things where you can balance the hoops, the academics, and then the social life within LA. But 3.7 1400, you know, our low end, I don't mind talking about it, might be a 3.5 1300, but the graduation rate is impressive. But the real issue is the admissions people do the work for me. We're not taking a kid who's 2.9, 1100, but he's 7'1". Bottom line is I may go up begging, but we're not taking him.
I love it. What's a schedule for the program? In season, off season, weightlifting, film?
Great thing about D3, I've watched both my kids, all my kids play high school sports, and it's year round. Division III, you get to actually have a life. It's intense, and you make it as intense as you want it. But those students get on campus, say late August, they start playing open gym, they see their strength coaches. As you said, we don't see them. And the key phrase, and I love the Brandeis coach, I always use the word intrinsically motivated. So it gave me chills when I heard his players were up in September doing individual workouts at 7 a.m. That's the life of a division. They don't have to be there. They want to be there because he's sold them on developing a culture where they want to win a national championship. So that's what goes on. We have Rush Gym, 2 shooting machines. So there are 2 guns in there. A small school, you get to know the campus safety. You get to know the secretaries. You get to know the custodians, and you're fine. I can't give a key. So if my AD's watching, I've never given everyone a key to get in the gym, at least not since 2004. Connor Whitman got the last key, then things tightened up. But, you know, we're looking for really motivated students. Then October 15th comes on. Everybody's a little different. We do a 7-day tryout, and we do have a developmental team. So we carried this year 16 players for 2 teams. in general, our top 8 played in varsity games, and our bottom 8 played in 15 developmental team games. And I'm a big believer in PT. I have excellent assistant coaches in Jim Hennessy and Mike Wells, and they're teachers. So we look at it as teaching basketball. And much like academically, I said, I won't even say second tier, but we're a backup school. Recruiting wise, and I understand this, we're often not getting the 6'10" guy, but we'll get the 6'6" guy. The 6'10" guy might have gone to Amherst, might have gone to Pomona, might have gone to Chicago, but there's lots of really good players who might be one rung down, and then we get them to come to Oxy, and it sounds a little bit arrogant, but we're really good on player development. So when guys come in, our players get better. We work hard. We're a little different in that we give a 1-year roster spot. It was intriguing to me to hear that, because I don't know, a guy can come in, you're in LA, all of a sudden, you're going over to USC on the weekends, you're going to UCLA, you're going to the beach, you like Malibu more than the gym, and you don't get any better. Well, that's not going to play. So we give a 1-year roster spot, and bluntly, all transparency, we've never cut a guy. But if guys don't get better and they leave and your bench press is 175 and you come back and it's 175, that doesn't bode well. In our programs, we always like to say the best players play regardless of class. And with those 16 guys, we have a very competitive situation. All 16 of them were in our 8-man rotation at some point, -2 during the season. So you get chances. We practice together. So practice is a little bit of a battle, and everyone knows. I just like knowing you're going to put a uniform on and play a game. Sitting on the bench nonstop, particularly when you've been the best guy on your team, that's tough. And we're there. We value those games. We play good teams, and we won half of them, lost half of them, but it was a good experience, and our guys have something to look forward to.
Coach, what was so special about your 14-0 team? You have the only team that went undefeated in SCIAC history.
Well, it was a hell of a coaching job. No, I'm teasing. The older you get, the more you figure out when you have good players, you tend to win games. That year, I had an All-American named Finn Rabasu from Garfield High School, only 4-time All-SCIAC player, absolute beast, went on to play in the top division in Denmark. We had a point guard named Song Kuhn, went on to play in the top division in China. We had the legendary Chase Young out of Seattle Select, starting at off guard, glue player. I hate to give him credit online. He's probably listening, but an absolute beast. We had a transfer from Gonzaga. I mean, we had a good team. We beat Cal State Fullerton that year. We beat a lot of good teams. Good players make good coaches. So everything fit together that year, and we were in the Elite Eight, lost to a great Gustavus team. But the NCAA tournament is a lot of fun. The Chicago person, Brandeis, they've been in it. In our league, Coach Katz and Coach Scalmany have been dominating. We've got this new guy coming in named Bridgeland. He's supposed to have a good reputation. We're waiting to see how that works out. I'll tell you that. He keeps on talking about don't sleep on the SCIAC. I heard him on a podcast, and he's replacing a living legend, one of my good friends, Jim Ducey. I can't believe he bailed out and retired, but he won championships in men's basketball, women's tennis, men's tennis, 4 different sports. So here comes whatever his name is, Bridgie from Whitman. We're going to see how that guy does joining the SCIAC. I'm happy. He's a good friend also. So one thing, we've got good camaraderie in our league. We battle when we walk into the gym. It's a war for 2 hours, Or people I'm not big on travel. For a student athlete, travel's tough to me. Our trips in the SCIAC are 1 hour. We leave at 4:30. We're back at 9. So when you're talking about true scholar athletes, I like that part of it. Travel sounds sexy in my mind. Again, not bash anyone, but quality of life for coaches, quality of life for student athletes. When you're taking a bus ride for 7 hours in the snow, I'm just not big on it. We have our little bus. We drive down to Redlands, drive out to Claremont. The league's close by. Fun league, great coaches, great history of coaches in our league. You heard Popovich and Pomona and that history. People forget about Mike Dunlap at Claremont, at Cal Lutheran, Gary Stewart at Laverne. I mean, just since I've been in the league, David Wells, Dave Jacobs, Gary Smith, it really is a good basketball conference where I just think, honored to be there, high-level coaches, high-level academics, and a fun league, 9 teams. SCIAC's on the rise.
Oh, it's very competitive. We were emailing the other day. An interesting thing that you pointed, a question you pointed out was, what advice do you have for guards who are 6'1" and under looking to play at the next level?
Yeah, it's hard. And again, I'm blunt on it, but today I've got 20 emails from 6'1" and under guards. All 20 were all league. All 20 averaged 14 points.
Yep.
Hard. You've got to be persistent. Then it comes back, well, can this guy get in? So all of a sudden, if you're a 6'1" guard and you're a 3'5", 1,200, it's not going to play. You've got to look somewhere else. We look for something special. The two things I think about would be burst. Can the guy blow by somebody when you're 6'1"? Because the key shrinks in our level. All of a sudden, you've got all these 6'10" guys in there. Can he blow by someone to make a play for somebody else, or can he make a deep three? And then you got to be able to defend your position. We switch everything because we had this wonderful point guard who was 6'2", 210, a beast, one of the best point guards in the nation, Ryan King Shiro, for a few years. It varies what we'll do, but I just think it's hard. You've got to, and then, on the bottom line is people call them roster fillers, but you've got to look, do they have a developmental team? Because if I'm 6'1" and I'm not all region, I can, tell you without really telling you that you're not going to Chicago. They're getting Division I players. That's kind of the misnomer about D3. Coaches say, particularly in California, oh, he can play D3.
Oh, yeah.
Hundreds of terrible players. He's the team captain. He averaged 4. You can't play at Pomona, Claremont, or Oxy. You have to be a player to play in D3, and that's hard for parents, and that's where I'm just kind of blunt and say, I don't think you can play here.
No, it's the truth. I mean, I've since I met you, 8 years ago now. I mean, going to Division III games, especially in the SCIAC conference, it is so competitive and it's so close across the region. Yeah. And to play a Division III, I mean, you have to be a really, really good player. Yeah,
the top of D3, I heard somebody else say it, the top of D3 can all play somewhere else. So Micah Elon from Pomona would start at Loyola Marymount, or start at he's just good. If you remember Daniel Rosenbaum, you go out there and all of a sudden it's 6'4", 6'5", 6'5" on the perimeter, and then 6'8", 6'8". So our league's changed, and the talent's gone up and got better and better. And I'll always stand by good D3, high-end D3 will beat bad D1.
I agree. I agree. What advice do you have on high school AAU camps, tournaments? Like, how does that all play together?
It's a mix. Everyone's different. So I like to get highlight films. I'm not going to, the Brandeis coach is bored. He's at home watching 15 hours of high school. I like to watch 5 minutes. Oh, this guy's got a little something. He's got a little bounce in his game. He can play. Then it gets me interested. Then you check the grades and SATs. But I just think highlight films, and then you dive a little deeper. For me, and again, I think you might start developing a list. My advice over time has been find 3 stretch schools, whatever it is, Caltech, Harvard, and Yale. Then find 3 probable schools that fit your profile, and then find 3 safety schools. And, all of it, fit trumps everything to me. So I don't get caught up in the academic Super Bowl of, oh, my kid got into Harvard. Where is your kid going to be happy? That's my advice. You could be happy at Puget Sound. You could be happy at Pacific Lutheran. You don't need, wherever it might be, go someplace where they want you, where you can be happy, where you can be successful on the court and be successful in the classroom. If you're a shaky at mid and you're the last person to get into Yale and you're surviving getting, you've been in the Ivies, you're getting C minuses, C's. To me, that's not a very pleasant experience. So I like to go someplace. 9 schools is more than enough. It could be 2, 2, and 2. Talk to the coaches. I like Coach McGrath when he says, no, you can't play here. See, that really helps a kid where he says, no, you're not going to get in. I'm not insulting you. I'm just being honest with you. Your academic profile does not fit our school. And that's hard to say. People think you're a jerk, but the sooner you do that, the less time you waste.
That's true.
Coach, I wanted to check in with you. We have students, young people, and families on this call that are from East Coast, West Coast, international, and I think you have a really unique experience having lived and played and coached in a different country. So, for some of the players that are on this call that maybe are from the East Coast or the Midwest or from another country that are saying, hey, it might be cool to move somewhere out of my comfort zone. Can you just talk a little bit about what that experience meant for you in coaching and, kind of how you've used that to kind of encourage other people maybe to step out of their comfort zones to come play for you?
Yeah, I'll tell you right off, it's scary. My daughter Rachel, South Pasadena girl, went to Boston College. All of a sudden, she'd never seen snow. New wardrobe. It was 10 degrees below. She was away from home. You know, it's a 7-hour flight. So it's hard. It's a commitment. And hoops, you know, sometimes you don't have November Thanksgiving. Sometimes you don't have the winter break. So it's hard. It's doable. You've got to fight. I loved when the Brandeis coach was talking about fighting back, is when you're away from home and you're out there and you're not getting playing time, school is hard, your biology lab is brutal. You know, I always think you have to go back to Michael Jordan's mom when he said, suck it up, work harder, make it through the semester. And, you know, if those freshmen make it through fall semester, then they're okay. But fall semester is tough. You know, the travel is real. It's not like you're flying from San Francisco down to LA. So going away from home, I experienced it as a parent. I've had a long history, you know, of guys, whether it's at Hanukkah at our house or Christmas at our house, who, you know, it's tough. Thanksgiving, you know, you go through it and you do have a family and you are at a school of 2,200 students and people care about you, but it's not easy. So when you're making that choice, I'm considering the travel time. I'm considering the post-graduation networking. You know, that's one of the things about LA is, you know, the job market. It's like being in NYU. Wow, Chicago. You're in a big city. It's a little different, say, if you went to Grinnell or somewhere that's a little more isolated and then you came back. Where might you want to live? And that's a nice thing out here because it could be the Pacific Northwest, it could be the Bay Area, could be LA. But it's a challenge going away from home. And every student is different. You know, you hear this saying about, well, that kid should go away from home just to get away. I'm not sold that. I've had lots of great local players where it's a luxury to be able to drive home, do your laundry, study for 10 hours, then go back to college, go back to your campus.
Yeah, for sure. Well, we have just a couple more minutes here and wanted to give you a chance to touch on anything maybe that we didn't get a chance to speak on. Obviously, it's a really quick time, and I really encourage everybody to make sure that they reach out and follow up with Coach Newhall. His email is below in the chat box. You can probably find it on the website as well. But give us a couple more things, Coach, here before we sign off. Anything that we haven't touched on yet that you wanted to mention?
Yeah. No. I like when Coach McGrath said we're both, I hate to say it, but we're old and wise and we're willing to help. So if anybody, even if you weren't interested in Occidental, you ask me a question, I'm going to be real with you and tell you where your son might fit, what chances your son's going to have to get in. You know, every school has a different system. At Oxy, we don't have a slot system. We don't have a tip system. In the Ivy League, they have a banding system. If you're a recruit and you're not one of those slotted athletes at the elite schools, more than likely, in my opinion, you're not getting in. So you want to know ahead of time. You want to ask the coach, I love that 4-year roster spot guarantee. That's the buzzword. And, you know, when it comes down to it, Coach Newhall, do I have a roster spot on your team? Sometimes I say no. Sometimes I say yes. Coach was right and says, we're guessing. We don't know. Often the hyped up guys come in, they bust. The underrated guys you didn't think were going to be, they blow up. You just never know about work ethic, attitude, stick-to-itness, grit. Grit is a big deal. And that's it's a hard time right now for everyone out there. You're like my kids where you're probably going crazy. Coaches are going crazy. You know, I drive up to Eagle Rock Park and watch basketball just so I can be around the game. Everyone's going berserk. And when you can't work out and you're a basketball junkie and you're a gym rat, it's tough. You know, mental health is serious. So you want to stay strong. My best advice is keep exercising. For all these 17 and 18-year-olds going, the uncertainty is very hard. The parents, it's very hard. You know, are we going to be remote again? Are we going to be in person? It's all up in there. So young people just need to hang in, stay strong, keep looking. You can do a lot of research online. And again, for any parents, players, I'm a resource. I like people to find good fit. Good fit's a big one for me. And that's why we have happy players. That's why we have players who stay for 4 years and play. And, you know, we like what you're doing. I'm a big fan of West Coast Elite, partly because you promote D3, partly because you're not telling every player in your program that they're a D1 player, which is a disaster. As you know, too many AAU coaches do that. West Coast Elite people tell it real. That's why I like being at their camps, speaking at their camps, coaching at their camps. And I love the fact that you play 2 dribble only the first day of camp.
Yeah, the kids love that. The first time they hear that, they give us this weird look like, what do you mean?
They're not big on it. That's my favorite rule.
Especially after the quarantine. Everybody's just been working on their hands.
Yeah, exactly. It's contagious.
Well, Coach, I mean, again, like we loved having you at all of our events. You've done an incredible job. We really appreciate all that you've given back to us. And what I would advise and encourage a lot of the people, especially those people that are local, go check out a game, because like you said, that level of D3 basketball that you guys are playing, both at Oxy, but just across the league in general, is really high level, and you really get a good feel of the atmosphere, the intensity, the way you guys play. It's really incredible to get to see a high level basketball game. And I really encourage people to do their research online, reach out to coach, ask questions. He does an amazing job responding. And like he said, along with all the speakers that we've had tonight, really has been doing it for a long time and has seen a lot of ups and downs and a lot of different players, and really just a great resource. So we can't thank you enough, Coach, for being on with us tonight and for all of your support you've given us moving forward. And we hope to get a chance to see you in the gym again soon. Hopefully keep the facial hair, keep the tan going, just the way it is, keep it.
Appreciate you guys. West Coast is the best coast. Take care.
Thank you, Coach.
Appreciate it.
Take care. Have a good evening. Stay safe.